Hello everyone, this is Ema Nikolovska, and once again with Young Classical Artists Trust, we bring you a video. This time in the lead up to the Banff International String Quartet Seminar broadcast tomorrow of Chausson's Chanson perpétuelle, where I perform with the New Orford String Quartet and Philip Chu. In this video, I'd like to explore two things. One, how I approach learning a song for the first time, and the second being a bit more information about the Chausson Chanson perpétuelle and some things that you can listen for tomorrow in the broadcast in the general conception of this piece. Everyone has their own way of approaching a song for the first time, but in general, we tend to start where the composer also started, the source of everything, which is the poetry. Another important way to build a relationship with the poem is to recite it regularly for oneself, for a friend, and basically share mental space with it every day, have some kind of contact with it. Also to write it out by hand, that creates another layer of intimacy with the text. So what we want to be doing is in some ways creating a mood board or a scrapbook for ourselves of sensations and ideas that we can draw on, and we accumulate these nuggets of sensory inspiration. We accumulate them as we spend more time with the poem and as we spend more time thinking about what the poem evokes within us. So here's an example in the Chanson perpétuelle by the poet Charles Cros, where being attuned to the structure and the patterns in a particular verse can add to your understanding of the color of that verse. In the first verse, each line has 8 syllables, and there are 3 lines. And this is the pattern for every verse, and they always rhyme. And in the first verse, every line ends with the vowel E. So, bois, frissonnant, ciel étoilé, mon bien-aimé s'en est allé, emportant mon cœur désolé. The next verse features a different vowel at the end of each line. And this just adds another dimension of awareness because vowels carry our emotions, and vowels themselves can attain so many different colors depending on the context in which they're used. We want to build an intimate relationship with the poem and its imaginative world. And some ways that we do that include analyzing its structure, its form. So how many syllables are there in every line? Is there a rhyming scheme? What kinds of vowels are used? Because vowels and consonants provide so much color. And also the different parts of speech. The verbs, nouns, adverbs, and adjectives, which ones are being used, and can we see a pattern in that? Essentially, in this stage where we're exploring the poem and building emotional meanings for ourselves between us and the text, this stage is one where we're looking for patterns, we're looking for asymmetries, and we're diving into the different layers of the poem itself, experimenting with different perspectives of interpreting it as well. The story of the poem is one about a young woman who has recently experienced intimacy and love for the first time, and her lover inexplicably leaves to a faraway land. This is a pain which is perhaps just a week old. It's not something that she's had a year to process, which makes the poem and the musical response to the poem really charged with drama. The vocabulary we find in this poem uses a lot of nature imagery and sensuality as well. The piano quintet is always responding to this writing, and in fact, they create the atmosphere of the piece, the natural setting that the singer is always referring to in the text. The challenge of this piece is to gradate the drama so that it doesn't come across as melodramatic or too sentimental, because these feelings that this young woman has are very real and very powerful, and it's a challenge for them to not become a caricature in a way. When we fall in love for the first time, so many extreme things course through our veins. However, the build up to them and the tension and release that's involved in how we process them, essentially that when we're working with recreating that in music, we're trying to make sure that the ratios of all these extremities are balanced, and that we're creating a dramatic pacing that keeps the listeners hooked until the very end of the piece. Chausson maintains our narrative interest by creating very different musical textures with every section that arises. The opening, in its contemplative and ruminative mood, has a very particular carpet that is set with the melancholic main motif. Then when it goes into the young woman reflecting about her novel experience, suddenly the writing changes again and it becomes more crystal-like and pure. And then as she's sucked back into the reality of her situation and the pain of it, again, the strings respond so differently. And there's so many different textural devices that are used as her story develops. Eventually, she imagines that she drowns herself, and the feeling of the water and the reeds lapping at her limbs is the same as the caresses of her lover, and she would like to die in this way. And that brings me to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. It was an absolute joy to put together this piece with the New Orford String Quartet and Philip Chu. And it was the very last piece Chausson ever wrote. In fact, 6 months after the premiere, he passed away in a bicycle accident. It's amazing to access his last notes and to have worked with absolute musical magicians. So thank you so much to the New Orford String Quartet and Philip Chu, and to the Banff International String Quartet Festival for the invitation to perform this incredible music. Be well, and happy September to everyone.